Goffstown Capital Improvements Committee second meeting. It's nice to see everybody back. Kimberly's gonna be late. Nobody ran screaming from the room last time, which is a good sign. And as we usually do, we'll introduce ourselves and to throw off, well, I was gonna say, usually Joanne's sitting down there, we'll start with somebody else, but Brad's sitting over there, so we'll start with Brad.
Oh, Brad Parker is community member at large.
Derek Horn, Town Administrator.
Jim Craig, Select Board Representative.
Ella Brook, Community Member and Recording Secretary.
I'm Jim Raymond, the chair.
Dan O'Connell, Community Representative at Large.
Lauren Dukas, Budget Committee Member.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
I'm muttering.
You guys can take it out.
I
pick
just
it up,
went
yeah.
to speak because I thought you were finished. Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Ellen Tramarko at the school board.
I didn't mean to do that.
Thank you. And why don't the people in the audience introduce yourselves now? I'll make you do it again when you come up, starting on the ladies on the right.
Kathy Coughlin, Vice Chair of the Library Board of Trustees. Diane Hathaway, your Library Director.
Eric Serino, Chief of Police.
Amy Huntsman, Library Trustee.
Thank you. So let me guess who we're going to hear tonight. I was going to ask Derek, but
Sewer department.
you people are totally right. We just got the minutes that may have been emailed to us, but if they were, I did not look at them. So we'll defer approving them unless, Joanne, were they emailed and I ignored them? We'll defer.
Yeah, they were
excuse me.
emailed.
I think they were emailed like maybe a week or so
No,
ago.
well, it shows how much I pay attention to everything you send me. So we'll defer approving those until
I
everybody's had
think
a
they were
chance.
sent by Gail, right?
Patty sent them on June 7th.
Yeah, she may have, and I probably thought they were planning board, so I didn't look at them. So unless somebody has a pressing need to approve them now, we'll defer it. Okay. Anything else, Derek or Joanne, that we need to attend to before we hear from the committees?
No, the only thing that was distributed to members this evening, you have one page of the matrix that just has the updated information for the police department's vehicles. It was just a single page.
You said it was a new one tonight.
Yeah, it was on, did you grab? Were you,
I didn't, I'm sorry.
oh, here, you can have this one.
Right here, maybe.
Let's see the file.
Okay, I'm assuming the trustees and the police chief flipped a coin to decide who's going first. Derek, do you know who won?
I think the library one.
Okay, so we'll hear the library first. That is brave. Don't go over the speed limit on your way home.
I don't know about that.
We do have an additional handout for your notebooks. It's ready for you to pop right in there. You're welcome.
While she's handing that out, Board, do you have any questions on our procedures? Most of you have done this, Lauren, it's the first year. The drill will look pretty familiar by the third meeting. They make the presentation. Derek or Joanne, I'm going to ask that you show us where on the matrix we should be looking in addition to in our notebook so we can follow along on both.
Yeah, so library has its own tab. I think it's the fourth one in. I won't give you the color because I think everybody's working off of different colors. But in terms of the matrix, you should be on page...
5 of 9?
Yes, page 5 of 9, starting at line 148. So 5 of 9 on 148.
Okay, everybody see that? Okay. Ladies, even though you just introduced yourselves in the audience, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves again as speakers, so then, just because.
Yeah. Kathy Coughlin, Vice Chair, Library Board of Trustees. And I am Diane Hathaway, your Library Director.
Why don't you take a minute and educate the committee on the governance of the library, because libraries are a different animal from other town departments and in interesting ways. So just give us the 3-minute tutorial.
Okay. In New Hampshire, public libraries are governed by RSA 202A, B. And under that statute, the libraries, public libraries are governed by a separate elected governing body, and that is the Library Board of Trustees. So while the Select Board has authority over the other 5 town departments, I report to the Library Board of Trustees. We do still function as a town department, and we go through the same processes the other town departments go through regarding budget and CIP and things like that. So that's like the 1 minute.
Yeah, you get another minute if you need it, but
No,
that's pretty good, that's a good summary. Yeah,
Thank you.
They have it, now, we see with like Parks and Rec, there's a Parks and Rec committee, but they don't have, it's not the same statutory powers. The library trustees have different powers.
Exactly. So the library trustees are elected, just like the select board is elected. And they're responsible for budget and policy and personnel, I guess, and governance of the library. We manage the building, but the building is owned by the town, and hence any property that's purchased is owned by the town. The library trustees are not permitted to own that property.
So, it's an interesting animal.
It is. And frankly, here in Goffstown, we do it pretty good, I think. I don't know how Derek feels, but, you know, my colleagues are not always as happy as I am with things, and, but we work really well together, so.
As an editorial current, since we represent many towns in New Hampshire, there are many dysfunctional library towns, of course, so we're lucky to have a group that will.
I agree.
Anyway, with that introduction,
Okay. I just want to begin with a little bit of background on our project. For anyone who's already been on the committee before, you kind of know that this is a project we've been working on for several years. The Goffstown Public Library is almost 113 years old. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. When it was constructed in 1909, our library served a community of around 2,500 people. Currently, we have approximately 18,000 residents still using basically the same footprint. The only expansion to date was the 1997 addition of the elevator and emergency stairwell that was put onto the north end of the building. This allowed access to the 3rd floor. It also allowed movement of things, so circulation came down to the ground floor. 2019, the Library Board of Trustees conducted a community-wide survey which supported our plans for expansion. The survey and the building plans can both be found on the library website. Foundation to Assist Fundraising was formed in 2020. It is a registered 501c3 and is currently doing work to prepare for a capital campaign. We have contracted with SMP Architecture in McFarland and Johnson to develop our building plans and to assist in budgeting of the project. We hired Bowen to be our construction management firm in 2021. The fundraising feasibility study has been completed in 2022. And our next community listening session is planned for August 13th at Stark Hall between 10 and 2, and we would love to see everybody there. Our current project investment so far, the library has 2 sources of money, so this goes back a little bit to what Diane was just saying. We're a strange beast. That one, we have operating budget, which is taxpayer money. And then we also get donations that citizens give to us, residents and alike. And those sometimes are what we call unrestricted, meaning someone didn't put ties on it. And if it's unrestricted money, it goes into different accounts than what our operating budget is, and that accumulates over time. And we've been able to utilize some of that money for this process. In 2019, there was the purchase of the grass lot in land where the upper parking lot is now located. The amount of trustee funds used for that was $272,000. 2018, the community survey, we had to pay printing costs because the survey went out in the town tax bills, and that was $470. In 2019, the feasibility study was approved by the taxpayers to use $80,000 of our trustee unrestricted funds. So again, that's not taxpayer money, that's trustee money that came via donations, bequests, that sort of thing. In 2021, the library renovation and expansion pre-construction was approved by taxpayers for $95,000 of trustee unrestricted funds. Again, not from taxpayer money. So that totals $447,470 that we've invested so far in this project, basically to help us get our numbers straight and to get the best possible figures.
I have a question, so Eric, you can answer this. Unrestricted funds donated to the library, are they still subject to the appropriation process?
Yes, they
Yes.
are.
Okay. Unlike the support group that's over here, that's a separate nonprofit entity. Now, those monies are channeled by them, but they go to the town or to the library, still subject to appropriation to spend.
Yes, so in 2019 and 2021, or was it
Yeah,
2020?
2020, wait a minute, it's on
So
this sheet.
2018 and 2021.
2021.
Those were appropriated at town meeting.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
The only
still-
time they don't need to be appropriated is if we spend money the same year we receive it. So,
Which is true on
yeah,
the town side. too.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The plans developed by S&P Architecture and McFarland and Johnson reflect community input as well as their expertise in design. They evaluated several different designs, and they evaluated several different sizes and placements on our lot. The reason why I say that is during some of our listening sessions, you know, it's like, oh, why'd you choose that versus this? So they kind of played out multiple different versions. They came up with a 7,000 square foot two-story addition to the north side of the building, and that's what we're gonna be presenting tonight. We have kind of just a large-scale schematic up there, and we have other drawings as well. And this is the current main entrance, and again, this is the part of the building that's newer. So we're not actually adding on to the historic part that's already been added onto, we're adding on to an already previous frontage. Okay.
Oh, show the plans, yep.
Well,
you
while
got
they're
it.
doing, stop for a minute. Anybody have any questions? Alan, on where we are so far, because they just went through a lot of information very
Yes,
quickly.
but I didn't hear and I don't see it in here. What's driving the need?
Well, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just on what they talked about so far. We're talking about history.
Okay.
We'll get to what's coming up. But I want, Daddy, you good?
Yeah, we're good.
You all know what his status, don't you?
To process.
Little ahead of time.
And your handout has a lot of, the orange pieces have a lot of the handout, what we've done to date, and then the floor plans are attached. So you have your own copies that you can review to the order to show you them.
Okay, thank you.
And so I just wanted to kind of highlight, see if my little pointer works. So this is our current building right here, and this is the planned addition. This is the lawn, and current parking is up here, okay? And so the plan is to make what is grass right now is going to become the parking lot, and the entrances, they have a separate entrance and exit, are further up High Street. There was lots of concern about what's happening at the High Street, North Mass, Main Street intersection. This actually pushes those entrances further up High Street, away from that intersection. Did anyone have any questions about where it's being placed? Yep.
Thank you. So where is the current driveway in relation to that entrance? And could you just
Probably right
ballpark
here.
it? Okay, thank you.
Where is the current front door?
There.
Oh,
Oh, wait,
No, the current front door,
I mean like the old front.
Oh,
right
the front
here,
right here.
Thank you.
or the precious, what is it? Our
Precious front is what the architect
architect.
called it. So, all right, do you want to bring up the first?
I can do that.
And these have already gone through a couple of different edits. So this in orange is the historic library, right here. And so one of the things, the main things, is this part being the addition. Again, this part here, where it talks about the elevator staying right where it is. What is currently circulation is kind of going to become part of the children's room. The children's room is not moving, but we are utilizing space that we're taking away from because circulation is moving. This is the current mechanical room right here, so that is getting moved. So again, the children's area is bigger. And this room currently has books all along it, but we're gonna be able to open that up and basically actually have a programming space, so that when a program is going on, it's not obstructing getting books and anything off of the shelves. Right now, if there's a program going on, the librarians are like scooting behind screens, trying to find, and it prevents patrons from browsing themselves when a program is going on. The staircase is the same, that bathroom, the only bathroom in the building right now stays, and that kind of becomes just a family bathroom. So it really kind of allows us to reshape this children's area. Where the emergency staircase is, that's what this kind of area is right here, we get to reclaim some of that. Circulation is there, and the back side of that is the emergency staircase. That's gonna get remodeled and to be usable space. So this is the main walkway, so you enter in from the same direction as now. Coming right in onto your right, there's a large community room. It can hold approximately 108 people, and it's dividable, so that more than one meeting can happen at the same time. It can also be separated off and be used even when the library is not open. There'd be a grate that comes down.
Right here.
And, grate right there. And, I don't know if you noticed, 2 bathrooms, 2 extra bathrooms already. Which is a huge deal, especially if you're talking about kids programming. If anyone's ever been in the library at the same time as a kids program getting out, it's not a good time to be waiting in that line. Circulation desk, staff working areas, mechanicals, hot buys, the hot book of the month is right there in that waiting area, right here. And one thing is right now we're working off of 3 floors. And that really divides our librarian staff, because there basically has to be a librarian on each floor right now. And so even though it's longer, we can actually have fewer staff needing to be watching because the sight lines are much better. So with the circulation desk being here, they can actually get a view all the way into the other room. So it kind of makes those eye lines better.
And the addition is 2 floors, not 3. So the historic building is 3 stories, the addition is 2 stories. So,
Does anyone have a question about floor number 1? Fine.
Yeah, I got a question.
Oh, sure.
So we got High Street here, and where the new addition is where the current parking lot is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so like the lower lot would basically be where the building is. It's
Okay.
it's almost that footprint.
Lower lot,
Yeah.
okay, thank Kathy.
second floor.
So the same format that the historic library is in, this orange. One of the big things is that anyone who's been in our library now knows that in the various older rooms, there are stacks of materials that are within the center of the rooms. And what we're really lacking is an actual place to sit down, peruse a book. There's one comfortable chair that's down in children's. I think there's a rocking chair up on the 2nd floor. So there's not any good places just to sit and read and, hang out essentially. So that's one of the things that's gonna be beneficial with this expansion, is that it kind of returns these rooms here to their former glory. There'll be places for people to kind of sit and relax, read, chat, have a coffee. There'll still be this back room, which has some stacks now, can be a meeting space, smaller meeting space, like for the teen group, like TAB, so that they don't have to kind of meet out in the center. They can be a little louder there. There's a staff bathroom there, but that's still going to be dedicated as a staff bathroom. It actually has some historic features in there. And again, that's the granite staircase right now. So that's used to be the main floor of the library, because there was no use of the basement. The elevator stays right where it is. Because of the way the construction is, and part of the reason why they only recommended 2 floors and not 3, was if it was 3 stories, it would tower over our current library. Coming down the hill from High Street, you're definitely going to see the big front. But from all the other angles, our library, that face there is still present and not overshadowed.
The whole idea of it is not to overshadow the historic building, because we want people's eyes to draw to the beautiful front that we have. That's why the architect calls it the precious.
The precious front, yes. And so they're actually different heights. And so there's actually like a little ramp that goes behind a little staff area. This is kind of like a young adult area, a couple quiet study rooms, so that if there needs to be a tutoring session, or if somebody needs to do a Zoom and they got like 3 kids at home and they need to do a Zoom for an hour, come rent, sign in for a study room. You can go ahead and use that, for whatever length of time you need. and 2 more bathrooms. We are very excited about that restrooms, I don't know if you noticed that. Then this is the area that's above the meeting space. So a lot of our stacks are moving out to this area, it gives us a lot of extra room, but again, seating, this area right here is actually glass, big glass wall. Our trees are staying, there's 3 big trees in the front yard. So this window here is looking up Main Street. So, and this is actually, oops, sorry Diane, this is a little bit of an overhang, and so it juts out a little bit, and underneath that, they kind of propose like that's where the bike rack would go for the kids and that sort of thing. The 3rd floor is going to be not open to the public, so that's going to be closed off, and that's why we're going to be focusing all the staff being on that 1st and 2nd floor. But it still allows us to be able to have that 3rd floor for staff space. And honestly, it gives us a space to move back into if 20 years down the road, we find that more space is needed, if our community grows even more. That actually is space that could then be re-facilitated. And so on the 3rd floor, so this is the roof here. There would be a mechanical area that would be accessed from the 3rd floor. But then this is the staff area, which is, if anyone's been up there, it's basically eaves, and there's like a narrow kind of walkway, and there's our current meeting room, which is a workspace as well.
What, no bathrooms up there?
No bathrooms up there.
That hasn't been laid out yet, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, when you reach a pause, we'll open it for
Yeah.
questions, right? I don't wanna cut you off. So
No, that's,
Are we at the pause?
we're at the pause, so
Okay.
we'll do our best to answer, and anything that we don't have our fingertips on, we'll obviously get to you.
I was just wondering if the director will have an office.
Yes, that was on the 2nd floor.
I know.
No, 3rd
No,
floor.
3rd floor.
Meeting one for
3rd floor. Yes.
20 years.
I know, we went to the garden club a few weeks ago. Kathy and I did a presentation, and one of the women there attends one of our book groups, and she said, "Oh yeah, I hear you on the phone doing library business." So, yeah.
So tell us, before we open it up too far, the financial portion of this, because they do link together as we
Yes.
look at this.
Did I not say that part? Oh, no, because I've got this part. So our project is estimated to cost $6,362,235. And we understand that's a big number. It's actually about a 10% increase over what we had estimated last year, but we all know that prices on everything basically have gone up. We anticipate from our fundraising feasibility study that we could raise between $500,000 to $650,000, and we're hoping to bond the whole project and then use any monies we can raise from our capital campaign to offset any bond payments.
Okay, so when you have, I'll see how that's line 149, I assume is, Derek, help us with this, is the,
I don't have my copy.
140, yeah,
I don't have yours.
148 is the,
They have.
It's the cost of the project, and then you'll see the offsetting bond revenue in line 151.
okay,
On their spreadsheets, yeah.
okay. Questions? Let me ask a question, because there was a question. I assume you've done some sort of, some form of needs assessment or whatever the, why don't you tell us briefly about that, just so you know you haven't made this up, what.
That has been ongoing over many, many years. We had our first building plan done in 2009. And that's on our website as well. And we had at one point been distributing it to committees. And I didn't bring you a copy of it this year. But it's on our website, and the need was estimated at 10,000 square feet. And we did start at 10,000 square feet, and we've pulled it back to the 7,000, 7,500
Yeah.
that we're at now, because we couldn't fit it on the property, number one. And number two is, based on the way libraries are evolving, we decided that we would take the chance and assume that we'll have a smaller physical collection moving forward. So, so that's where we're at right now. So it's as small as we can make it at this point. We have huge need for people space. We don't have space in our building for people. And the surveys show that people want to stay longer in our building. They want different kinds of seating. They want comfortable seating. We have none of that. The need for more bathrooms is just something that I'm almost tired of talking about, because one toilet, it's pretty irresponsible for us to have one public toilet in a building that serves that many people. We need sprinklers in our building. The historic building is not sprinklered. That's one of the things that will happen during this process is the historic building will probably need rewiring because it's 113 years old and we're running everything on it. It needs better cabling, it needs sprinklers, it needs brand new windows. The windows that are on the second floor are 113 years old. They're lovely, but they're not efficient. So accessibility is a huge issue. Pre-COVID, I was mortified that a guy couldn't get his wheelchair through the door to enter the library. It was a big one of those motorized ones, and he couldn't even get in. That was eye-opening for us because we had assumed that we were fine. Our main door was, met code, and it does meet code, but at the same time, technology and equipment is moving way past that. So that was a real problem for us. We say we're ADA accessible, but we really aren't ADA accessible. We do the best we can, but there's a lot of work that has to be done in the historic side of the building.
Good luck.
Oh, thank you. Was this moved up on your CIP? Because I see the 6,362,000 was in 2024, and now it's on 2023 proposed. Is there a reason that you moved it up a year? You're ready? You got this study back early?
We're ready.
We're ready.
We're totally ready, and frankly, we need to take advantage of prices before they go up even more. We're really worried about those percentage increases annually. Yeah, thank you.
Ellen, you had a question earlier.
How many people use the library every day?
Every single day. This week, we had 2 days over 300 people entering the building. We did have Maple Avenue visitors this week, but I didn't bring statistics with me. But yeah, we have a brand new door counter, which is giving us hour-by-hour counts
Yes.
and daily counts. And I can't tell you the average off the top of my head, but I can get it to you.
I'm just thinking, yes, the community's growing, but we also know that public libraries in general across the country, it's like, I think I read when I looked it up, over 30% have closed down due to lack of use by the public.
I'd
is
like
what
to
I
see
saw.
that,
Yeah.
that source. I think we're in a time right now that post-COVID, that's really hard to predict anything. The community has changed, libraries have changed. I don't see the death of libraries personally, and it's not just because I've spent my whole career in libraries. We aren't gonna grow in the current space that we're in. We're not gonna see growth. We don't have more space in the building for people. We don't have space for the collection. We don't have parking for the people who want to attend now. I hear constantly, yeah, I couldn't make it to the program because when I got there was no place for me to park. So those are the constant complaints that we have.
So other than, like you said, 300 people in the last couple of weeks, is that normal or is it?
That's probably above normal because we had our Maple Avenue visitors. I will get you the average per month since we installed the new door counter so that you have it.
And libraries, people may not be coming in to take books out as much as they did because they get a lot of things online. However, they're still being used as gathering spaces and spaces to go for lessons or, whatever
Yeah.
type of programming.
And also offer a lot of programs.
Okay, the chair's got to recognize Jim who put his hand up, unlike Joanna didn't.
Sorry. I get excited.
I know you do.
My daughter's a librarian.
I don't want you excited. Are you finished? Just have to say, I spent a year with you, and I think this is the first time I've seen you without masks on.
I know, right?
Didn't know what you looked
Did you
like.
recognize us?
After a while. I had just, the financials, did I, indulge me for a second. Did you say you've already spent 447,000? I don't see anything that adds up to that. What was that for again?
That
Or was
was
there
our-
something in there that I
Well,
didn't see it?
I mean, I was going back through, like, getting the land to be able to expand on, because they did that many years ago. Most recently, it was the 95,000 warrant article and the, what was it? And 80,000.
80,000 for the...
Yep, and $490 to mail out the survey.
Okay, and the balance would be the extra land above?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. There was 270,
272,000.
Okay, but that 447,000 has been expended already just for this, anticipating this project?
Yes.
And the other thing was, did I hear you say that you're projecting to raise $500,000 to $650,000?
we had, part of one of the warrant articles was hiring a fundraising consultant to do a feasibility study for us, fundraising feasibility study. And the result of that was expecting from the community a donation to be able to raise between $500 and $650. That's what she felt the giving capacity of the community was for a project like this.
And what was, and again, I think I heard you say something about how you were going to expend that money.
Once the, I'm chair of the foundation, as a second hat that I'm wearing, once we're hoping to, well, because we understand through the bonding process, that takes a little while, that we would be working on developing our pledges, but not necessarily have the money, but have those pledges. And then once we have the money on hand, then to be able to do it as a donation to the library that then can be used to offset, like basically give that over to the town to offset bond payments.
So if the town bonded the full $6 million, you would just pay that down with that?
Yeah, I mean,
If you didn't have the
from,
money yet or something?
Danielle gave us a bond lesson, so she told us that bonds cannot be prepaid. So like, if you have a 20-year bond, it's a 20-year bond. But we could still, from my knowledge, that we would be, if we did raise some money, that we could be able to turn that over to the town so that could be used towards a bond payment.
You all remember who Danielle is, she was here last year.
Sorry, should have said
You
that.
stuck with me instead.
Yeah, well, we got second choice, but she's the numbers girl.
And just, may I just one,
Yes, sir.
and that fundraising, when do you intend to start and finish, how long is that?
Well, we're working on actually the same fundraising consultant, where the foundation's actually looking to hire that person to be, to work on the materials, and we're actually hoping to do that before the spring, to get pledges.
Daddy?
Yeah. So this will obviously go to vote next year, right, with the town?
Yes.
Yeah. So if it does get turned down, is there a thought to reconfigure, maybe take out some square footage? No, not whatsoever?
This is as small as it can be.
Okay. 'Cause
We've
I'm just
already
looking at the
reduced it.
community room here,
Yeah.
it's 1,100 square feet, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
I was saying to myself, like, people took that off. Everything else is still kind of work, I guess, because you can, the meeting room upstairs can be, you can push the study rooms over there. I'm just thinking, if it does get turned, is there a way to reconfigure in any means now?
If we took off the meeting room at the bottom, that means we don't have any of
Right,
that up
I knew
there
that,
space
no.
for this.
So that
that would-
push to the other side, because you have a lot of meeting space on the current side of the original building on the second floor. So I was thinking, could you make those the study rooms? Could you make that some of the adult reading?
It really doesn't help us as far as fitting in the people that we need to fit into our building.
Yeah.
And the community room space is the most requested item that we have. People want space to meet in. That space will be outfitted with GTV, so community groups can meet there, boards can meet there. That's a big selling point for us because the public is asking us for space like that.
Yeah, well, just curious, I just didn't know if there was a
Yeah.
plan B, should it?
This is Plan B.
Okay.
This is the fine, because we've gone through everything, and like I said, we started at 10,000 square feet, and we've reduced it And this is as small as it can be at this point.
Right?
Yeah.
Question, actually, too. The bond you mentioned would be a 20-year bond?
I'm anticipating, but I would leave that to the experts in finance to
Okay.
assist us with
That's
that.
Derek, that question.
Yes, it would, I mean, in conjunction with the select board and
Yeah.
the trustees, they would have to decide on how long it would be, but I would say a 20-year bond would be
Okay.
most likely.
And my other question was, with the community rooms and other stuff, would that be revenue generating in any sort or any way? Or
We
would
haven't
they,
dis-
a rental fee?
We haven't discussed that yet. We haven't even written a policy yet. We figured that would be putting the cart before the horse,
okay.
you know?
So,
We don't want to get too excited
Okay.
about it.
Ellen?
I know this is looking into the future and all, but generally speaking, what are we looking at as tax impact?
I mean, I did some rough math, and maybe the math people in the room could help me. And I rounded up the project to make the math easier, that, $6,400,000 over 20 years would be about a yearly $320,000 plus interest. I'm not 100%, that obviously makes a difference with what our current tax rate is and that sort of thing. But that was the math I came up with, that would be kind of like the chunk each year.
So I did write a note to Danielle that once we get closer, it'd be nice to hear from the municipal bond bank on what they have for projected rates for
Right,
next year.
yeah.
But just did you say 300?
That's what my,
40,000?
the 320 is what I
320,
anticipate
so
for
if that's
20.
the principal alone, that's approximately 20 cents on the tax rate.
20 cents per thousand.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I just had a question
Jan?
about the interest rate. With the feds raising the interest rate, does that affect bond rates?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
What are you hiding over there?
Sorry,
How does I feel
I'm
the
over your
vision?
shoulder, sorry. I go to the annual meetings, which I know a lot of the public doesn't do, but I'm trying to think of how we present such a big number to come out on the warrant article. And to me, and I understand what you're saying about the way we do this, but it seems like we're bonding and then we're gonna raise money and then that will reduce the bond payments later. But as a public person who doesn't maybe understand all of this, couldn't we do our fundraising first so that we only have to bond, say, $6 million or, I don't know.
Except that every year the price is going to go up by 10 or 12%. So we did talk about that.
Yeah, even just between last year and this year, that 10% is the amount that we can raise from capital. So if we delay it, till we have that, we've already, inflation is gonna outpace any amount that we can privately raise.
I'm going to answer that in parts. I'm going to put on my advocacy hat. But in our experience with other towns with projects, usually donors want to see that the town approved it before they write the check. They're not going to write checks for something the town is not bellied up to the bar. Yeah, so.
And a lot of grantors are like that too. They want to see a commitment from the community before they will provide grant money, so.
And you can get pledges, but pretty soft pledges until
Yeah.
the town, so.
And we understand, I mean, this is obviously it's a big project, and we understand, but we also believe that it's an investment into our community. We are building senior housing in multiple areas in the community, and seniors like places to go. We don't have an official senior center in Goffstown, and these spaces in the library are de facto senior center. And I just really think it's, you know, we're worthy of this library.
Just to follow up with Dan, because he mentioned the meeting space, and that came up last year at I believe the Budget Committee asked about there's so much meeting space in the building. Currently, we don't have the ability to have a children's program and a teen program at the same time, because there's no place for that to happen and there's no parking, so we can't double up on anything. So this plan gives us the ability to have our children in the children's room, our teens on the second floor, and even a community meeting in the community space. We have that much need. We had our opening our kickoff to our summer experience program last Friday, and I have never heard so many complaints from the public that, well, when my little kids are in a program, why can't my teens attend too? Because my teens need something to do. And it's a hard answer, because we don't have anywhere to be able to, work with our teens at the same time. So that's just a recent example.
Just get at this point about the senior citizens, that would be a good push, if you guys could incorporate that, because we don't, as you said, don't have a senior center.
Exactly.
She was aiming that to her right hand of the room out there. Joanne, I want to wrap up the library pretty quickly before we all get arrested for vagrancy.
Is there
He's
such a,
listening.
is there such a thing as a recommended square footage for a town with our size population?
There is, I don't have it with me,
I have.
and I can tell you that we don't even meet it, even with an addition.
Oh.
So, when we put the addition on, we're still not gonna be matching other communities of our size. But we feel this is the most responsible thing for us right now.
I promise,
You
I
have it?
I have the chart, it's just a matter of finding it. Here it is. Hang on, I can't, do you have your glasses in?
No, I forgot,
Hang on.
I've been blind all day.
So we have a chart, we'd be happy to share it with you if you guys want to actually see it.
If you'll send that in later, we can just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll email
So,
it.
our current usable space in the library, square footage is 7,047. And if we do it as a per capita, that's 0.39. And if we were to match communities of a similar size, so like Milford has a population of about 15,000, and their library is 13,500 square feet. And if we were to do the opposite, look at communities with our size library, what their population is, the one that comes closest would probably be Epsom, and their population is 4,788. And we'd be happy to share this chart with you, because we have it both ways.
I'll email it along with the visitor count.
Thank you.
Brad, quick question?
Martin, yes, a quick question. Now that we're moving out and taking parking space, that's the lower part, and with the addition, I'll call it the green area, the grassy area, increased parking, how many spaces approximately?
I
We're
have that
talking
too.
about 43 spaces.
Which
Right
is
now.
how much above what you have now?
Currently, we have 10 spaces, no, 15 spaces. 15 spaces now.
Oh, so you're gonna triple it?
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
It's about one space per 300 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
And anyone who wants a tour, anything like that, let Diane know. She'd be happy to facilitate a tour. Our board meetings are the third Wednesday of each month at 6:30 and on the third floor. And I'll do a little parting note that I'm a born and bred Goffstonian. This library is my hometown library. The meetings where we have our board meetings are the same tables that I did homework on. So I just want to say that, it's, to have a library that's essentially the same size as from when I was a kid, it's time for us to invest.
If you have other information you want to submit, send it, and Derek can hand it over
I will.
If anybody has any questions, obviously just send that to us as well, because, we want to be able to share as much as possible, and the plans are on the website.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Derek, we threatened dire consequences if we didn't get to the next topic. So why don't you tell us where we're going to be looking, and
So police looks to be the sixth tab in. Just a reminder, there was an additional 11 by 17 handed out this evening that had updated information.
is there another sheet with equipment, or is it all, is everything?
Yeah, so the police department has one that has their vehicles. That's on page 1 of 9, or it's probably better to look at the revised one that was passed out this evening, that has all the vehicles. And then the police projects is on page 4 of 9, and that starts on line 101.
Okay, everybody with us?
Page 4 of 9.
So this new one just.
So the new
this
one,
and fill it out?
yes, we'll give you a revised update, yeah, that's no good,
So this replaces 1 of 1
yes.
previously.
Yep, 1 of 9, yep.
Yeah, 1 of 9,
We
sorry.
usually schedule the police in conjunction with one of the other departments that inherits their old vehicles, so the chief can hear about the donut crumbs in the glove compartment. We spared you that this time, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Eric Serino, Police Chief. Thank you all for having me. Thanks for all coming out. And I'm excited to give you a brief overview of what we have going on. If you allow me, Mr. Chair, I'd like to, last year I sat in front of this committee and basically informed you all that we had a critical failure in our radio system, and we were very fortunate that the Board of Selectmen allowed us all the ARPA funding that came into our town, and they've approved us to use the entire funding to basically build an entire new system. So what you'll see in my CIP packet this year is there's not a lot of radio stuff in there. So from all the men and women of the Goffstown Police Department and the Fire Department, I'll speak for them, we're thankful for that. We're on the right track. We have a company contractor that's already got the stuff on order. They're getting ready to start building towers. We're going to planning board pretty soon to talk about the 2 towers that we have to build. With everything else in this world, they've placed the order, but some of our radios that we're looking at have a little bit of a slight supply issue. But we're excited that we're in the right path, and we're making huge strides on getting this radio improved.
Ladies, you don't have to stay. We won't feel amiss if you
I'm
leave.
supporting my colleagues. He
Okay.
might need a little muscle, so.
Okay, you're welcome to, but I don't feel, thank
Who
you.
did you support?
Thank you. So that's where we're at, and again, I'll reiterate, like the library and a few other departments, many of you know that we're in a situation where we're at some point going to need a new police department. If you haven't been so lucky to come walk through your police department, please do. I would love to show you a tour. I'd love to make it longer than 30 minutes than the budget committee had the other night. I walk fast and talk fast, but I also talk a lot. So we are not at the point where I can come to this committee and talk about that, because we have been trying to talk with the county about purchasing some land. We've made some progress, but not as fast as myself and the town would like. We have some support with the commissioners, but ultimately we have a few issues with trying to look at RFPs and some other businesses that are trying to get in the same property that we're looking at. So I think there's some things going on there that we have to kind of look at how we can maneuver that. Because if it's an RFP that's open to the public, we're probably going to be outbid by some corporations that want that land. And if you don't know, the land that we're looking for is the gardens next door to us. And the reason why we've looked at that is we're trying to stay central to the community. We've been told by the county that the old women's prison is off limits. Any of that land is off limits. As you all know, we have the largest undeveloped county land in the town. So they are not giving or letting us even touch that. So we've talked, I've had some conversation with commissioners. The good news is some of them are in support of it. We just got to kind of figure out where we can meet there and start to work. My hope is that once the town can get some land, we can start to look at really the footprint of what this new building looks like. So once we get to that point, we'll be back to talk about that. And a lot of what we've had, my predecessor had in CIP years back, that has to do with building maintenance, overlays in the parking lot, new parking lot designs. We've strategically tried to keep that out of CIP in the hopes that We're not gonna spend that kind of money when we're hopefully gonna be breaking ground at some point and building a new police department. But I will say, as I said about my locker room, which I'll get to here, that we are still living in our building, we're still working there, it's our home, so we have to continue to make some progress with it. So until we can completely have a new building, we're gonna start making some smaller, really important changes. One of them will be the locker room, but small stuff like the overlay of the parking lot, I think we're in a good place. I've talked to DPW director, I think we're fine. But that's pretty much a quick rundown of where we were at from last year to this year, and we're doing pretty well.
Thank you. I was lucky enough to be on our 27-minute tour of the police station. I will be calling you soon for a more in-depth tour. Were there any preliminary studies done that, I agree you guys need a new station, that was rough. But you yourself said there was a lot of space there that didn't really make sense for its use because of the age of the building and some of the stuff that you have to store for such a long time. Were there any studies done that say you have to actually increase your footprint, or do you think if we rebuilt and then put a proper second floor on there, because you had said it wasn't up to residential build, so it'd have to go and then...
Yeah. So we did, several years ago, we had, I think it was Stantec came out, and we invested some money in them, looking at basically what we can do internally to change everything, new AC, HVAC, new floor plan, update some things in there, new locker room design. So yeah, they basically took our entire footprint and reconfigured it. But I can tell you that I think the quote, don't hold me to this, I think it was somewhere about $4 million back then with no extra square footage. And based on my understanding from Stantec Engineering is that when they built our police department in 1987 and added on 1997, they built it on the specs of residential grade. So in order for us to build up, we would, yeah, exactly. We can't build up based on the current structure. We'd have to either have, steel come in, or they'd have to kind of wipe it all out, and then we still have to operate.
Right. Yeah.
So my understanding is that it wouldn't be the best idea to go up. And kind of the other problem with that is, as we grow, even if we were in the same location, I always like to give a little perspective. In '87, when they built this building, we had 19 employees. We're almost at 50, and what's another 30 years in Goffstown for the Goffstown Police Department, right? I mean, we're growing, and if we're going to build this, we need to build it for 30 years, sustainability. And we have a hard time parking with just our officers we have now and our staff, and then when we have training during the day, we bring everybody in. So that's something we have to think about. So even the land that we own is still going to be, I think at some point down the road, if we were to grow, if that county developed all that land to businesses, I'd be sitting in front of the Board of Selectmen saying, we're going to need more police, right, as the population goes up and the calls increase. So that's going to be my concern, is parking and other things of that nature. But I mean, yeah, there are some spots in there that we could look at and kind of redesign and try to reuse that space. I guess the question I always have is, what's the appetite for the town and for us to spend the money there in the hopes that one day we're going to be moving somewhere else with a bigger, newer facility, and this is where for me it's where this tipping point is. What's the appetite to spend money to invest in I like to call it the black hole of Goffstown Police, so what we could potentially have a new building that's sustainable for 30 years. I think I'm not 100% ready to make that commitment, but that's kind of where we're at.
For those of you who weren't around in the dark ages, there's some history with the county and land next to the police station that left some bad feelings. I don't know how much Eric's having to work through that now still, but for a long time that did affect negotiations with the county.
They reminded me of that.
Yeah, when the county gives you land, don't sell it.
There are people on the commission that were there then.
Oh.
Yeah.
I won't say any more about past eras, but.
So it appears that the county doesn't have any sort of policy where if land were to become available, they would not offer it to a community be
I-
first
I
before
believe they had their last discussions, go ahead.
They do, it's written into state law, so that's what they've been working with their county attorney on.
So they do have that ability to offer it to the town?
They have the ability to sell land following state law, so do they put it out to bid, like the chief was saying, and it's open to anybody for any type of development, and that's what they're trying to work through of.
Changing that?
Or are they able to put out a bid that's limited in scope that perhaps, so I think they're working
Oh, I
through
see.
that.
Like for a police station only?
No,
Or
but,
something,
you know,
yeah.
because I know the county has also been approached by, I don't know the specific, but community housing groups, as well as, I know the nursing home is looked at an expansion as well. So there are multiple parties that have been talking to them, so, beyond retail or commercial development, but those have as well.
You can ask Ellen later about the town vote many years ago.
I was here then.
I'm just picking on her, but yeah, I was here then. I remember it well. Anyway,
Just a quick question, Chief. We know that across the street right now is not even in the plan, but you're looking at the possible where the gardens are. The land behind, is that county property too?
Unique is directly behind us,
I
but
know,
based on GIS, it looks like
That's what I, okay.
the gardens is the road frontage, and then it goes up and shoots behind Unique, and it's like 245 acres.
So that there is town,
There-
I mean,
That's
county property.
Yes, and I don't know what if I know there's some water back there, and I'm not sure what goes up in the back, but yes, there is some, I think there's 245 acres that shoots up the hill.
I'll look at
So-
GIS, but I'm like, but of course, there's the slope, the runoff,
Yeah.
all the other stuff.
yeah, we don't need to get into that yet. 'cause
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm
that may
jumping
be
ahead of
next year's
myself.
discussion. Let's,
Maybe, hopefully.
maybe, let's get through this, you know, it's something that's on, we hope the earlier horizon.
Can I
Jill?
say something? I know the chief had offered everybody a tour, and I would really suggest that if you could make the time, you do it. He gave me a tour last year, and it was, almost 4 hours maybe worth, and it was an eye-opener. It really, really was.
Tour of the building for 3 or 4 hours, or?
Yeah.
I'm very jealous of
Everything.
that time frame.
Everything.
Yeah, like 27 minutes.
In defense, Gail and I do talk a lot. If people want to get granular, I'll get granular. If not, we can make it, we can go
All
quick.
right, let's
We're
go,
walking and
people.
talking. I'm open. It's our building, the town's building. There's no hidden secrets. I will take you through the bowels, wherever you want to go. I want everybody to experience it.
Okay. Ellen?
If a couple of, I don't know who is interested, I'm interested in going, but I certainly would rather go with a small group of people.
Yeah,
than
well, why
Take up your time one
don't, we
person
won't
at a time.
schedule it now, but if you
Yeah.
can create a group and line up with the chief to
Yeah.
do it.
Absolutely.
Through Derek. Okay,
Through Derek.
okay. With that warm up,
So, I will start, like we do every year, of my vehicles. And I will.
let's, I'm sorry, remind everybody on the policy on vehicles since, when they're in CIP, just
Yes, so, vehicles, again, any project that's over 25,000, but vehicles are also included. Think whenever it needs to be basically registered, so we do include trailers, and it's based on the life of the vehicles. Trying to flip through to remember the exact verbiage. But, so a purchase or lease of wheeled vehicles or motorized equipment having anticipated life of at least 3 years. So that's what the chief has.
and remember, we don't review operational budgets. This is a capital budget, but it does include vehicles in our rule book. And then all the stuff that's on the other sheet. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No problem.
Getting going.
That's fine. So, what I'd like to at least, I'll start with, obviously, our police vehicles are our main mode of getting around this community. It is our officers' offices for 12 hours a day. That's what they work, and typically we have 10 line cars that are in service for patrol. And we usually try to operate half of the line if we can on one shift, and then once that shift goes home, they swap to a different line of cars, so they're not constantly running and driving around and wear and tear 24 hours a day. Also part of this fleet, we also have 2 SROs that take cruisers to their schools, which is a great asset of having a police car in front of our schools currently. We have numerous internal staff, administrative staff, as myself, that have cruisers that we use daily. So this is it. This is like the fire department's, fire trucks. I will tell you that this last year has been a whirlwind for us for police cars. We are experiencing the 2020s that this committee has helped us get and we've purchased have been having more problems. Brand new cars have been having more problems where things are breaking, warranty items are breaking down. I'm coming to this term called the COVID vehicles. The ones that were coming off the assembly during COVID that are getting pushed through, that are probably not going through a really good quality assurance check. So now we're getting these beautiful brand new shiny cruisers off the line, delivered to us, and we are excited, and then they're sitting over at the highway department getting something fixed, or back at Auto Fair Unique getting warranty items. And now we're finding, like everywhere else in this world, we drop a car off for an issue, the part takes a week to get, there's no mechanics working this day, so the car sits. So we're experiencing these issues. One of our cars currently has been pretty much out of service for a couple months now, in and out, due to electrical issues, due to other mechanical issues, water pump failures. We even have experienced one cruiser that has a dent in the exhaust that we're trying to basically say that this came from the manufacturer, so now we're fighting them, trying to get them to replace this. So I say that to you to kind of explain to you where we're going. So as we try to order 3 new cruisers every year in hopes that we take 3 cars that have been on the line, that their mileage is going up, and then those 3 cars then go to our staff vehicles, and we de-stripe them. You probably see them driving around. They're kind of the dark blue cars that don't have anything on them. We use those for 3 years, give or take any mechanical issues, and then once we're done with those 3 years, we rotate them out to DPW and they get all of our donut crumbs. And vegan, other things. So essentially we try to look at our cruisers as a 6-year investment. Now, with some of the different, some years we have to pivot. So we'll line up the matrix for everybody here, and we'll look at different cars that we're anticipating to kind of go 3 years on the line, 3 years as administrative, and then we push them out to the highway. But we're seeing that some cars have no problems, and we're pushing forward with low mileage, and we can kind of keep those cars a little bit longer. And then we're seeing other cars that are newer, like this car 9 that I have that is a 2020 that I'm probably going to try to get. It's causing me more problems. It's not being used, and it's basically sitting in a lot somewhere just waiting to be fixed. So as we're seeing these problems, we have to start to pivot which is not necessarily following the matrix, but we have to kind of pivot to operate. So I'm here to ask for 3 more cruisers for next year, in the hopes that as we get these 3 new ones off the line, the 2021s that we got seem to be okay, but we only just got them, so we're, we're starting to see where those go. So my hope is that we can get those in next year and start to rotate our cars off into DPW.
So just to scroll forward then, for the sheet 1, well, the sheet, it's only 1 sheet. No, you put in for 2023 the 3 cruises at an amount, and then on line 10 there's a placeholder for future years, and that assumes similar replacement schedule. So you haven't locked those into those, but that's the schedule that you told us about.
Yes, those are figures that we've looked at to say we have 3 cruisers with what we pay for outfitting, for putting all the lights and sirens, all the decals, any kind of equipment we need here for prisoner transport, weapons, locks. That's what we're anticipating what the cost is. Now, with that being said, I'm trying to tell this committee that in 2026, 3 cruisers is gonna be roughly $169,000 with all of our equipment. That could change tomorrow
Yeah,
with
we understand
vehicles, you know, equipment shortages, but the ones that I'm giving you for 2022 that we've already got in 2023 that we're looking at, that is a pretty solid number of where we're at when it comes to the vehicle costs, the equipment, and our vendor that does decals. So obviously, if we get to next year and some things go up, we'll have to make a decision on how we're gonna spend that money.
You recall, Boyd, we talked early in our first meeting that, and Derek can talk about this, the numbers that we put in, they are knowledgeable, good faith estimates, but they're not hard numbers or anything. You don't know until you get there. So, and
Yeah.
we understand our situation. Brad, do you have a question?
Yeah, just go ahead. We're looking at vehicles 12, 15, and 18 for 2023.
Let me pull up that.
I don't have my reading glasses, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing on the matrix, but again, I think
Yes.
what the chief is saying is when he gets to, when the vehicles actually get delivered, it could be other,
Okay.
it could be
So
other numbers.
we're anticipating 12, 15, 18 base, and if you look, the mileage that
That was
in
gonna be my
hours
next
that are
question.
there are as current as yesterday or the day before when I got this final copy to Derek and Joanne. So those are the mileages and the hours. So that's the anticipated thought. Now, like I said, if, for an example, you see car 18 has a little bit less miles than the other two, and let's just say all of a sudden, car 1 has a major issue and we're constantly, well, car 9 has constant issues. Depending on the situation, we might have to pivot and keep 18, keep it as a staff administrative car that doesn't get driven as much, and start to figure out what we're gonna do with 9.
I'm glad you included not the mileage, the engine hours,
Yes.
because that's exceedingly important. You just can't look at mileage for, well, you or fire or anything. The hours that they're used is so important.
Does everybody understand that concept? We've talked about it.
And I do have in the sheets, and I'll say it publicly again, that the industry standard basically indicates taking the total hours and then multiplying that by 33. And that's the idea of how many mileage that engine hours are. So if you have 12,000 hours, you want to multiply that by 33, and that's what Ford says that's adding those extra mileage, like it would be adding that as mileage to your engine. Now you have to remember our cruisers, they idle for hours. They are driven in a different capacity than most people. So when you see 100,000 miles on our cruisers or 85,000 miles on those cruisers, they are driven in a sense of slow speed in a nice neighborhood to all of a sudden a car rolls over and someone's entrapped and we're going fast, we're braking hard. You know, the hours of sitting out when it's snowing and we're waiting for highway to get, you know, down there and clean the roads. We're idling, so these cars are, their engines are designed differently, but they're definitely used in a different way than the average person. So the hours are really huge.
Don't drive like they do.
If you choose to, but no, I'm just kidding. So really, that's what we're looking for. One important thing I'd like to add that I haven't really worked out yet, but talking to my staff, I never realized this, but as we buy these cruisers, we have a 36,000 mile 3-year warranty. So it's either you're going to get 36,000 miles, or if once you surpass that, you're out, or if you get 3 years. Well, here's what I just found out this year is pretty much we can, depending on the cruiser, we can hit 36,000 miles in about 1 year. You know, maybe a year and a half. So here we go. We have a cruiser that's only a year old and it starts to have, you know, warranty issues. We bring it to Unique or to AutoFair and they're saying, sorry, you're out of warranty. So now we have to start to look at the cost of this cruiser at, as of right now, we're projecting $48,767. That does not include an extended warranty. So that's something that we have just found out this year, kind of looking at it, that maybe as we start looking at CIP in the future, we start to maybe look at a warranty and add that in. But I want to see what the numbers are that we're spending at Unique or AutoFair, and if it's gonna be worth getting a warranty, but based on what I'm seeing this last year with these newer cars, might be something that we can look into, but that's a new fact that I wanted to add to the committee here.
Does anybody have any questions just on this concept of the renewal schedule that we've developed, and one of the purposes of CIP, and maybe we should stick with it, but people may have different views.
It seems to be working well historically. It seems like that's how we've kind of operated. So that's kind of where we're sticking with that. I mean, every couple of years we've had to kind of, depending on budgets, we've had to kind of maybe not get 3 cruisers, but what ends up happening is that just prolongs the maintenance issues for the other ones.
Okay. Any other questions on things vehicular? Are there any other unusual, I don't see any. Sometimes you have other kind of interesting vehicles that are floating in and out. But
So the only other ones that would be different than our cruisers is our mobile command post. Basically, that is, I don't know what's in the matrix. That's a
Line 21.
2013.
Yep, that one, we use it for any kind of major emergency or any kind of major crime that we need to pull a lot of evidence in. It sits a lot, it goes out in parades. We typically drive it around to just keep it going. But at some point, my staff and I will be developing down the road of what we want to do with that, and what year do we want to get it in the CIP to replace it. The other one we have is a Ford F-150 that we use for any kind of moving things. We just need a pickup truck, moving things around. We used it for the animal control as well. If we do pick up any kind of animal, we do have a cage that we can transport dogs in back to our kennel, or anything else. So it's more of a utility vehicle for us. It seems to be working out pretty well, but at some point we will need to kind of get that thing ready to move as well.
Okay, nobody has questions on vehicles, let's move over to anything else on your list.
So I still have earmarked for 2025 the PD locker room expansion.
Line 101, here.
Yes, line 101 on page 4.
Some of you might have heard me a couple of years ago talk about our women's locker room expansion. The budget committee came in and saw the fruits of that labor. Again, we added about 100 square feet. It didn't need to go into CIP because our contractor did it at a pretty reasonable rate, but that was a really pressing need for us, as you guys all know. Like, we basically went from an 8 by maybe 7 locker room for these women, and now we have 6 women plus our other women staff that work in the agency. But the bigger picture is our men's locker room is antiquated. We have, I joke, but I think it's serious. We have lockers in there that I think the high school got rid of 25 years ago, and we have them. It is definitely not up to what we want our newer officers to come in and represent Goffstown and see that locker room. So really, for me, this $250,000 is a placeholder, obviously, with building supplies. We're not quite sure where it's going to be, but the idea is we need to start to look forward and maybe develop the women's locker room, the men's locker room, and we have kind of a space that's like a gym, but not everybody uses it anymore. Most people have a gym membership and choose to work out off-site. They don't want to come to work out and then work for 12 hours. So there is a thought process that we could utilize that space as one big locker room. Some of my, through our accreditation, we're getting information that the future is not necessarily a men's and women's locker room, but more of like a family area for like the YMCA, where you have kind of a central area where everybody can come in, they can store their gear, have lockers, but if you need privacy, you go to a separate section, which would have, shower stalls and changing areas, and that would be different, so we have kind of a bigger area, and that's to kind of look forward into the future of, you know, just different unisex kind of locker rooms. So we're looking at potentially doing that. So instead of just doing the men's locker room and fixing that up, we're thinking we'll just expand it all out, do one big new locker room area and have that design. I mean, that's a couple years out, but that's the vision.
So, leading loaded question, but to what extent are our facilities affecting your ability to retain or attract new teams?
I will tell you that that's a really loaded question, because as I told the board when I took over in 2020, that I think that our building, if you use the SWOT analysis, it is a threat to us. It is a weakness to us. People that are coming out of a college like St. Andrews College and seeing that beautiful school and they want to be a police officer and they look at Goffstown Police Department, I mean, I think our agency is top notch. I'm biased, but we are. But when they look at the police department and they see the facility, and then they go to Londonderry, which is the Hyatt, and they see that facility, take your pick. Where do you want to go? And that's for us where we have to really work on other things in the building, morale, employee wellness, you know, technology, which is top notch in this town. So that's keeping people here. But yes, people don't like to work in cramped spaces, dated spaces. I mean, I have one woman who goes, all we need is a little paint and a little, you know, and I'm like, you're right, you know, but that's kind of they see it. And the women are being in that new locker room with the fresh walls and the new floor, but you move the old lockers in, right? So here's this beautiful new room with fresh paint and all new hardware, and then we move in the 1986 lockers, you know. So yeah, it is kind of a threat to us and a weakness.
Anybody else?
So basically, you're describing a locker really can't hold an officer's personal equipment.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Thank you for saying that. So our lockers, if you can imagine, of the old high school lockers are about this thick.
They weren't even big enough for high school.
So they're putting in some coats, maybe they don't typically put their bulletproof vests in there because as we all kind of sweat, it kind of gets stuck in there. So now they hang them outside so the air kind of flows. They can't put their boots in there, barely can put, so when you walk into our locker room, there's boots everywhere, there's stuff hanging, and then they have big patrol bags that carry all their paperwork and equipment that they bring and put in their cruiser. When you go to a place like Manchester, just built a brand new building, or Dover, that built a brand new building, or even Londonderry, you walk into their locker rooms and it's spotless. And the lockers are ceiling to floor, and they're wide, and they actually have air ducts through them and receptacles inside, so they can put their portable radios or anything else they want to charge in there. They have a foot locker that pulls out, they put their boots in, and that air duct blows air through it, which then air dries their uniforms, and it vents out those vests. So now they're not hanging out everywhere so people can see them. They're all tucked inside, and it looks beautiful. And let me tell you, when you're walking into work and you know it's going to be a stressful day, and you're already walking into a stressful locker room, it kind of amps you up. But when you walk into a place like that, it gives you a little sense of calm and, you know, and stability. So that is kind of important.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? It's very, after last year with the radios, it's a very direct, simple presentation. Appreciate what you've gotten.
Yeah,
We know there's some work left to be done, but some of it's in the future.
we are too. So I do have one more, if I may, request. We have been told by our, we utilize a records management system and also a computer-aided dispatch software. Every law enforcement agency uses this. This is our central database that houses all of our data. Essentially, I call it an RMS or a CAD system. And essentially what it does is our dispatchers that sit at the computer, they use the computer-aided dispatch system, so anything that happens in this town, any call for service, anything gets put into the system and timestamp is our records. And then we have another side of that, which is the records management when officers or any staff go in and they do reports, and we house all of our, every piece of data we have to include pictures or any evidence stays in the system. It also connects us to the FBI, National Crime Information Center. It hooks us up to our state police online terminal, so it gets all of the state information, so it helps us run people's licenses and registration, so it is our central nervous system hub. We've been told by our vendor that we got back in 2013 that, as like anything else in software, it's coming to the end of life. I was at a chiefs meeting the other day, and we are all scrambling in the state because the majority of the police departments in this state use the same exact software. And the reason being is because we all connect together and we can see each other's information, which is sharing that information. So now, here we are at the state trying to figure out what's next. And as you all probably know, every chief's trying to figure out which chief's going to make that initial investment to figure out how that software works. The good news is our current system has a parent company. Of course, that parent company now is trying to sell us, instead of the end-of-life system, they are selling us this new system. And the concern with our software is that they've told us that we'll be good for a couple of years, but essentially, as the end of life comes and they stop delivering updates, we now are not in compliance with the FBI CDIS, which is a compliancy that we have to be able to do to house data for law enforcement. So as that evolves, we need to really start looking at a new records management system. I put a $250,000 placeholder there before I was able to get a quote, but we are lucky enough the other day to get a quote from the parent company. Again, this is just the company we already use, doesn't mean we have to use them, but they're estimating about $420,000 to $450,000, and that includes all the software, all the data conversion. And when I say data conversion, is they take all of this data that's proprietary to this company and they convert it over here. And that includes all the equipment, and basically from start to finish it's now operational. But with anything else comes the yearly cost of maintenance. So that's kind of where we're at moving forward. But we have a team that's looking at and working with other police departments, trying to figure out what everybody's going to, because what I don't want to do is if we're all working well together in this company and then we go to this company, but everybody in the state's going here, we're going to be so we're trying to figure that out right now. But that's the up and coming of what we're going to need at some point.
Is it possible that's going to get moved forward then, if this
It
plan
could,
falls into place?
if we start to see that end of life is coming quicker and the updates aren't coming, yeah, it might come up.
Okay, so we know we don't have to deal with it now, but, okay. Any other questions? Chief, anything else?
That's pretty much it for right now. We're looking, besides the building, our agency is doing all right.
Okay, we left it that if you want to have a tour, it sounds like it's worth doing. Should we run it through you?
Yeah,
Darren?
if you let me know.
Yeah, if they can badge people, maybe it'd be efficient.
Perfect, yeah.
Now, would this be during the day or in the evening?
Well, I'll tell you this, I would prefer during the day, as my young family misses me at night, but I will be willing to come in at night if anybody needs to.
Okay, we'll try to.
Well, I'm just saying a lot of them work.
Yeah,
I'm available
but-
anytime.
Yeah.
But he's entitled to go home, so, yeah, we'll try to.
If we can, I can do anything, but, you know, if you ask my preference, it would be,
No, I understand.
yeah.
Okay, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, Chief.
both departments. You all get better the more often you come, and Eric has done very.
Thank you.
Until we got this down, the library is similar, so thank you.
I'll take the cues from them when I'm looking for the building.
Anybody have any questions, thoughts, suggestions, observations of Great Brilliance? If not, Dad, you want to move to adjourn?
Yeah, oh, wait a minute. Minutes?
Yeah, we deferred those because some of us, like me, hadn't read them.
Some other day? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. No.
Just, I don't know if you're already aware, the school district is coming up. Scott will not be able to be here. He has been medically vacation.
What? How dare you?
But I'm going to be here, and our two department heads for technology and the facilities will be here.
Have to call spill
To
management.
go through the whole thing.
Okay, okay. I think that works, that's fine. We can always get them back later if we have questions. Okay, there's been a motion made, seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.